happened since we last talked. And you may have noticed my hair is now what looks like orange in this video, but it's actually blonde. I promise you it's actually blonde. Um, it's kind of traditional after you have a mental breakdown to dye your hair or shave it or do something drastic. So what I would like to talk about today is some of the things that I've seen on Twitter about what happened on January 6th, at the Capitol. I'm not going to go through and explain exactly what happened because everybody knows what happened. What I am going to do instead is talk about some of the reactions to the things that's happened, and some of my opinions about it. The first thing I want to start with is, well, I do not like the word terrorist. And I know there's some people that get really mad whenever you bring up wording like, they think you're like trying to censor them or something, or that it's a waste of time. But I really do believe that the word terrorist is a word that the left should not be using, especially anarchists. It's kind of ridiculous to hear anarchists use the word terrorist, especially when you consider the history of anarchism and how many anarchists have been labeled as terrorists. And you have to look at what the word terrorist actually means, which is basically somebody who attacks the state or a state, and causes terror, Most people in the United States, when they think terrorist, probably the first thing that comes to their mind is 9/11. That's what I think of anyway. I was like in second grade, I think, when 9/11 happened. So it's very, like, those two things really connect in my mind. Specifically, and I think a lot of leftists need to admit this, at least a lot of American leftists, that the word terrorist has an incredible link to racist ideas against people that are, Muslim. Like, let's not beat around the bush here. That's what the word terrorist has been turned into in the American consciousness. If you look back a little further, you can look to people like the Black Panthers who were labeled terrorists in the United States. But, you don't even have to go to those extremes. If you just even talk about, like, recently, with Antifa being labeled terrorists all the time, and Black Lives Matter being labeled terrorists all the time, like, the word terrorist is always assigned to people who are enemies of the state. And I think a lot of leftist people would agree that the left is an enemy of the United States. Not the people of the United States, but the government of the United States. I don't think there's any leftist that likes the United States, or at the very least, I wouldn't consider them a leftist if they would like the United States. In fact, I think the United States is probably the biggest threat to the world. So using language that the United States and other Western countries have appropriated to mean, like, anti-American or anti-Western, I don't think is a good idea. I would not label the people that attacked the Capitol fascists. I would not label them terrorists. I think it's a bad idea. I think the word fascist covers it pretty well. Because you have to remember that the people that attacked the Capitol are not enemies of the United States. They love Donald Trump. They love the what do they call them? The anti-establishment Republican Party, whatever the fuck. Basically the Republican Party. They love the presidency. They love law enforcement, whatever they say. So they are not terrorists, at least not by their definition of what they are. Fascism is not the enemy of the United States. It is the core of the United States. And I think by labeling them as fascists, you're kind of subconsciously trying to separate fascism from the United States. And I think that's a bad thing that the left should not be doing. I don't think it's the biggest problem. Like, I don't think people are bad if they call them terrorists. But I do think it is a bad idea, and it is something that you should try not to do, or at least try not to do without kind of addressing why you call them terrorists and what you associate with the word terrorist, and recognizing the history of oppression that the word terrorist has and how it's been used to hurt people. So that's one thing. Another thing I would like to say is there are a lot of leftists, let's call them leftists, let's call them leftists with liberal leanings. I don't want to call them liberals because I think, there's that meme, everyone who doesn't agree with me is a liberal. Like, I don't want to do that. But they seem to have this idea that we should be happy that a lot of these people are being arrested. And specifically, the fascists are being arrested. And on one hand, I agree. There is a lot of schadenfreude watching them be arrested and lose their jobs and stuff like that. And I think that's great. But I think we also have to address the fact that they will not be properly punished by law enforcement. They will not face justice or have any kind of real substantial repercussions for what they did. White, cis, wealthy men do not get punished by law enforcement. Not really. I mean, like, we've already seen some of these people that are getting super light sentences. They're posting bail, they're getting off on parole or whatever, they're getting slaps on the wrist, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And that's also why I don't like the word terrorist for them, because if they were actual terrorists, they would be put into Guantanamo Bay, according to the United States, and they would be tortured for their entire lives extrajudicially, and they would not get a trial, they would not get to talk to their families, they would not have to report how many of them they had in there, or how long they'd been in there, or what their crimes were. So that's not happening. None of these people are going to go to Guantanamo. I don't know. My dog's trying to get out. Hold on. Do you want to... So, that's another thing. They're not being treated like terrorists by the United States because the United States really does not consider them terrorists. They are not enemies of the United States. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to say that people in Guantanamo deserve to be there or that they're fascists. What I'm trying to point out is that it's fun to laugh at fascists being arrested and that sort of thing. But it is not going to stop fascism. It is not going to punish them in any way. It's not going to rehabilitate them in any way. If anything, I think they will be used as martyrs for other people, and I think that it's kind of pointless. Like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be arrested. In fact, I quite enjoy them being arrested. But I don't think we should hang our hat on that, I don't think that should be like, oh good, they're taken care of. Like, that's, you can't do that, especially when you consider the number of law enforcement that are involved with these people. Like, you can't expect them to prosecute their own people. We know for a fact that the cops don't prosecute their own people. And even when they do, they're super nice to them. I don't know. It's just... And also, one thing that I don't see a lot of people bringing up is this was a super spreader event. None of these people were wearing masks, except for, I think there was a couple people wearing, like, balaclavas and stuff like that. But most of them were not. Not just because they're anti-maskers, probably, but also because they knew they would not be punished. So why would they cover their face? But, so a lot of these people probably have COVID, or got COVID at the event, and will spread it when they get to prison or jail or whatever, wherever they're sent. And the number of people in jail right now is already at a dangerous level. If you look at, like, California is where I'm from, so that's what I pay the most attention to. It is overflowing with people. California, I think, has, one of the highest amounts of prisoners. And so what we're going to do is we're going to introduce a whole bunch of people, because all these people come from different states, different parts of the United States, and sometimes Canada or whatever, you know, and then we're going to take them and put them into prison or into jail and put all these other people in danger. All these other innocent, non-fascist people in danger. And yes, I do consider people in prison to be innocent. But, I don't know. I mean, in a lot of ways, people will say, well, then what do we do with them? What do we do with them? How do we punish them? How do I put this in a way that won't get me in trouble? Cops will never, and when I say cops, I mean the state, will never truly punish fascists. And I don't think punishment really stops or rehabilitates fascists. I think the only way to stop a fascist is to take away their power. And if you can't take away their power, then, you know, they probably will never stop being a fascist until they die, is what I'm going to say. Anyway, another thing I wanted to talk about was a whole bunch of them being banned from Twitter and other social media, including Donald Trump. A lot of people seem to be, like, not conflating, but yeah, conflating, arresting them with banning them from Twitter, which I think is sort of strange. The reason why I'm sort of against the idea of, not against the idea, but not, like, gung-ho about the idea of arresting them, versus I approve of banning them from social media, is because, number one, banning them from social media, like, actively inhibits their, you know, the spread of fascism. The main spread of fascism nowadays is social media. And we've seen them try to turn to other methods to spread fascism, like there's that app Parler, I think is what it's called, and that's not going great for them. So they're gonna have to go farther underground, and I mean, on the one hand, it makes it more difficult to monitor them, but on the other hand, fascists are not very smart, as Parler has shown us, and there will always be ways to monitor them. And also, you know, there's this whole idea that somehow we have to be fair to fascists, like, because we're leftist, we have to be good and, you know, nice, and, you know, fascists have rights too, and all that kind of stuff. And, no, they don't. Fascists do not have rights. They do not have rights. I don't know why that's even a question. I think as soon as you become a fascist, you do not have rights. Like, I don't think that you should be cruel, like torture them or something. But at the same time, I don't give a fuck if their freedom of speech is inhibited. Like, what kind of... Who cares? Like, I don't understand people that are like that. And I know there's the slippery slope argument, but I think it's a little ridiculous when you consider what life is actually like on social media for people, like for leftists. We're already silenced a lot by social media. I don't think this is going to change anything. Now, there's a big difference between social media saying that they're going to ban all these people and the government saying that they're going to enact new laws because of January 6th. Number one, Twitter is not good at enforcing anything. And number two, laws actually like affect your life and your safety. Twitter guidelines do not. So, and you know, this is one of the things I said while it was happening, because I was on Twitter, kind of live tweeting what was happening while I was learning about what was happening, is that the US is going to use this, probably not even just the US, but the US definitely is going to use this as an excuse to strengthen laws, specifically anti-terrorism, surveillance, law enforcement laws. They're probably going to increase law enforcement funding, and they're going to use it as an excuse to work with Republicans, you know, good Republicans. And as I predicted, I'm not gloating, but it's kind of a shitty thing to be right about, you know. That's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. And I think that is something that we should be against and that we should be paying attention to. And I don't think enough people are paying attention to it. I don't know. Another thing I want to say is the hypocrisy of American politicians. Talking about how awful this was for them, how, oh my god, it's like the death of America, and, you know, the United States has never had such a dark day, and all that shit. Specifically, I want to talk about AOC. Okay. I've had some disagreements with other leftists about her. For some reason, leftists like her. Like, I don't know if people think she's, like, one of the good ones or something, but she is not. She's not the worst, but she's definitely not good. You definitely should not trust her or idolize her or... just don't. Like, I want to be, like, 100% clear. All politicians are bad. No politician is trustworthy. No politician is worth your fandom. Like, no. Like, listening to her talk about the coup at the Capitol is honestly, I want to say funny, but it's actually just makes me mad. Because if you know her history with supporting coups in other countries, you know, she's fine with the United States doing it, but all of a sudden, when it happens here, it's, oh wow, it's incredible, it's the worst thing in the whole world. Like, the same thing with people like Hillary Clinton, Obama, fucking George W. Bush. You people are warmongering imperialists, and here you are grandstanding about how, oh, this is so awful, this is unprecedented. Like, wait, look, I'm not saying that fascists did, like, a good thing or something. Obviously not. But it is so hypocritical of liberals to do this kind of thing. And there's, like, zero self-reflection. Zero, like, self-awareness. And it is very frustrating. It is even more frustrating for me to see leftists parroting liberals about this. Like, what are you doing? Like, I know, you know, like, maybe if you're, like, new to leftism, you know, you used to be, like, a social democrat or something, and, like, you're trying out leftism and you don't really understand, that's fine. Okay, you're learning, but all you other people, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? And I mean, I think, you know, a lot of this comes from people seeming to think that this is like a civil war type of thing. It is not. Civil war implies that somehow that fascists are enemies of the United States. They are not. This is not a three-sided thing where there's like anti-fascists, fascists, and then the United States. This is just anti-fascists against fascists. You know, this whole idea that somehow the United States is against fascism, or that fascism is a threat to the United States, is ridiculous. I mean, liberalism requires fascism to exist. Look, it's just a fact. There would be no liberalism without fascism. What is actually happening is that liberals are realizing that fascism exists. Like, you see a lot of people talking about how, like, oh my god, how could this have happened? How could, you know, who could have seen this coming type of thing? Or that this is unprecedented, or this is, like, the worst day in American history or something. It is not. This is par for the course and 100% expected. Like, I don't know how you could possibly be surprised by this happening. I think it really speaks to how delusional liberalism makes you, and how much there are crucial tools of state control. Like, I don't want to get too anti-state right now because I'm trying to be, you know, hashtag left unity, you know, that kind of shit. But it really is an infection in the American consciousness. It's frustrating. It is very frustrating to see. And I think the left has a problem with... I don't think enough leftists are facing the fact that they still have a lot of liberal ideology, like, in their brain. They have a lot of that propaganda still stuck in there. Including me, by the way. I'm not saying that I'm perfect or something. And it's something you need to deal with. Like... I don't know. Oh! This is related, but a little bit off topic. There is a particular Nazi that went to this Trump rally, and he's called, like, the Nordic shaman or something. He's the guy with the horns and, like, the fur, and I really hate calling him shaman. That's such a... You're not a fucking shaman. Like, anyway, and there's a whole bunch of leftists, let's call them leftists, simping for this dude. Really, you know, really wanting that dick. And it really pissed me off. I saw some specific people doing this. I don't know their fucking names. Say a whole lot of people. And it is very worrying, and especially because a lot of people didn't seem to understand why it was wrong. Like, okay, let me explain something. Fascists can be attractive people, but see, the problem is they're fascists, and that kind of is more important. Okay, like, I mean, obviously beauty is subjective, but they're fucking fascists. Like, And the thing that really bothers me about it is a lot of these people are, how do I put this, non-Jews. They're usually white, and they're usually, not the kind of people that would have been affected by, like, sexual violence from the Nazis. And to see them sexualize these people who systematically, like, sexually tortured people is... It really upsets me, honestly. And a lot of people seem to think this is, like, haha, ironic, funny. It is not. It is not. I don't know how much more I can say this. If you want to fuck a fascist, you are a fascist. So, I think that's pretty straightforward. You're basically a fash sympathizer, and there really is no difference between a sympathizer and a fascist. They are materially the same. So, if you are one of those people that said those things or thought those things, I would really like you to examine why you find fascism attractive. And don't say that you don't find fascism attractive, because you do. You're lying. You may try to say, "Oh, it's ironic," or "Oh no, I just mean not that he's a fascist. It's, that he's has a beard. I don't know." That's another thing. Okay, can we talk about how, like, cis white men can just fucking get a beard and then all of a sudden they're attractive? Like, oh look, like, you just have a flat stomach and a beard, and that's it. That's all you have to fucking do to be like Brad Pitt. Because, like, have you seen him? Have you actually looked at pictures of him? He is the most, like, not, like, normal-looking average dude I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't understand what the Anyway. I don't know. I realize a lot of people may think these things are inconsequential, but, there are actual living victims of fascism, right? Like, it isn't just like the 1940s. There are actual victims of fascism. There are actual victims of fascist sexual violence, and they can read your tweets, dipshit. So why don't you try shutting the fuck up? Anyway. What else do I want to talk about? This is kind of a big topic. And I've seen some different kind of reactions to it. Specifically from the more... I've seen some different responses to it. The idea of whether or not we should condemn the act, the fascist, the act of, like, mounting a protest or a riot or whatever the fuck you want to call it, an attack on Capitol, like on the Capitol. Like, should we condemn that? Should we say that's bad? Should we say that the act, not the intent behind what they did, was wrong? Is it wrong to storm the Capitol and, like, demand something from politicians? And apparently, I didn't realize how controversial this was on the left. A lot of people seem to think we should condemn it. That we should never, ever do anything like that. That it's wrong. That instead we should never do anything violent. Not even anything like you shouldn't even like occupy the capital, like take the capital and occupy it. Like there's some people that really believe that. And I just want to say to please read into political violence like from a leftist perspective. Like please look into that. Look into the diversity of tactics. Look into the purpose of violence as a means of liberation, because there's so many writings. Like I originally was going to make a video just on this, but I realized I am not very smart. And I just want to be like clear about my position on it. I think that there's nothing wrong with storming the Capitol. Like there's something wrong with fascists storming the Capitol, but there's something wrong with everything fascists do. They're like, a fascist sitting down and eating a sandwich is wrong. That doesn't mean eating a sandwich is wrong. You know what I mean? But anyway, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I think it becomes a little bit more complicated when you talk about, like, there was a couple people, or several people, if you want to, whatever. There were people there at January 6th that wanted to kidnap people, like kidnap the politicians. I think that's a little bit... I don't think I support that. I mean... I just can't see a material reason why you would do that. Like, what the point would be. But, like, breaking in and just occupying the Capitol, like, what's the problem with that? What is the problem with that? Like, and I know that might be a controversial take. It seems that, like, you don't even have to be a pacifist leftist to disagree with that take, you know? And in a way, I think it's good to have a diversity of ideologies on the left. But on the other hand, it makes me really nervous, because what if it came to the point where a leftist or a leftist group did occupy the Capitol? Would all these leftists saying that, you know, oh, that's wrong, would they, like, condone it? Would they, like, turn coat? Like, what? I mean, how much do you think it's wrong? Like, what is the level? Like, would you completely disavow them? Would you call them terrorists? Like, is that the line for you? I mean, I don't know. I think it's something that should be discussed. And I mean, it is difficult because political speech is limited on the left. Another thing I would like to talk about, the bombs found at the Capitol. Not a lot of people are talking about it. I mean, it's kind of like the zip ties thing. Like, not a lot of people are saying it. But the bombs specifically really worry me, because, like, the zip ties, you could say maybe they were going to use it to, like, close a door. Like, you could argue, even though I don't believe that. I think they were trying to kidnap people. But the bombs, like, those are definitely fucking bombs. Like, it can't be used for anything else. And I don't know how widespread it was known that there were bombs, like how many of those fascists knew, because bombs don't discriminate. Like, you know, if a bomb goes off, anybody in that building is going down, like, so fascist or not. So that's kind of interesting. But I think it really does show that, you know, fascism is a death cult. Like, they just are. Like, they're willing to sacrifice each other, they're willing to sacrifice themselves, because they really believe that what they're doing is the right thing to do. And do I think they would have used those bombs? Absolutely. I think they would have killed their own people if necessary. I think they would have killed innocent people if necessary. And And that's something that I don't think gets talked about enough. Anyway, that was just a quick chat. A quick lighthearted chat about a failed coup. Even though I wouldn't call it a coup. It's not really a coup. There's more coup performance theater. But whatever. Let's talk about some fun things. Okay. It was my birthday yesterday. I turned 27. I have 2 presents. My uncle sent me. Let's see here. You see it. The light's showing. There you go. You can kind of see it without the light. It's a Joseph Joestar mug, and I dearly love it. It is very hard to find merch of Joseph Joestar for some reason. Most of it is Jotaro or Josuke or Giovanno or whatever the fuck. I can't remember his name. I always want to call him Giovanni, but I know that's not his name. So I was very happy to have that. And yes, I did force my uncle to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And then my brother got me a Josuke, or I always want to say Josuke, but I think it's like Josuke, pin. Let's see if I can get it to... Come on. Here, let me turn my light off, and then maybe I'll see it. There it is. So my brother got this for me. It's very little, but I love it. And it's also JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because my family knows how much I love it. And I'm always trying to get them to watch it. I got them to watch My Hero Academia, but I cannot get them to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which kind of makes me sad. It is kind of strange getting older, especially being so close to 30. Like, 30 seems like such a grown-up age. And I don't feel like I'm a grown-up. I feel sort of still like a kid. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I know that's normal. Like, no adult knows what the fuck they're doing. Anyway, so I really like this style of video where I'm just fucking talking. I think it's fun for me. As much as I like researching for videos and writing scripts and stuff like that, just talking is kind of nice too. It kind of, you know, it's relaxing. It's fun. What was I gonna say? Another update. I have officially quit sex work. At least in-person, full-service sex work. And the reason for that is because my health is decreasing, as I mentioned in my previous video. It's gotten to the point where I cannot do that job. You know, it is quite a physical job, and I can't do it anymore. So I have some ideas for what I could do for work because I'm currently unemployed, and I cannot work a normal job. Like, it's impossible. I just don't have the energy. I don't have the focus, whatever. So some of my ideas, I have made a, like, not safe for work Twitter, but I don't think I'll sell a lot of stuff. Like, I'm a pretty niche product, if you know what I mean. I thought about selling art. I don't know. I mean, the thing with, like, small business owner type of stuff, like selling art or selling nudes and stuff like that, it's a lot of work. And I kind of feel like I'm trading a really physical job for just another physical job, or at least a mentally draining job. And so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I would like to get disability if possible. I have to talk to my new doctor. I have a new doctor now that I've moved counties. And or at least I'm supposed to have a new doctor. They haven't contacted me yet. And see if it's possible, because, you know, the problem is that, you know, I have what's called... Dog's going crazy. I have what's called MECFS, or chronic fatigue syndrome, and it is very hard to diagnose because There's really no, like, test. Like, they do your blood work and then, oh, look, you have the MECFS gene or whatever. Like, it's not how it works. So, we'll see how that works for the doctor. One thing that I've read is that if you can't get diagnosed with MECFS, they might be able to count it, because I do have depression, maybe they could count it as, like, depression causing all this. Which I don't think is true, but whatever, maybe that's what the doctor will say. And I think you can get disability for depression, but it is more difficult than with a physical disability, so we'll see. It would be interesting though, because I would make more money on a disability than my old work. Which kind of tells you how little you make doing sex work. So. Oh, and by the way, I will be putting subtitles on my last video. It's just, at the time, I want to put subtitles on my videos before I put them out, but that was kind of a difficult video to film, and so I didn't put subtitles on it yet. But I will put subtitles on it when I have time, because, you know, I want to try to put subtitles on all my videos. So, I'll get that done. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. And I would love to hear your opinions on January 6th. Please do not incriminate yourself with your opinions. And that's all for this video. Again, I think I already said this. Thank you for watching.